tell me a little more about your selection process.
Well, it more so depends on what I'm looking for in each breeding, because this breed is still kind of being tweaked a little bit. There's not enough consistency, and there's definitely some things that I feel need to be improved. So, basically, it's just whichever breedings I have set up will have a certain goal in mind. If I'm seeing that some of my dogs are running more on the tall, lanky side, then I'm going to do a shorter, more stockier breeding, so that way I can try to find that good balance in the middle. Or if I'm looking for a dog that has a better head or a better muzzle, each breeding is going to bring something better to the table than what I had done before that. So really just trying to get that right balance still. So each pairing I do, each keeper I take is going to be something that's bringing something better to the table than the last.
Okay, that makes sense. So what does your setup look like? Are you using chains, kennels?
So I am all for chain spots. I have done kennels before. I haven't done any big extravagant type kennel system, but I have done kennels, and I see that the dogs don't really like it as much. They seem to feel like they're a little more closed in and have less freedom. Once you let them out, then they're running around like lunatics. So I could definitely tell they feel more confined from being in a kennel. And I find kennels to be a little bit more work trying to keep the dogs from breaking out of. Some dogs are climbers, some dogs are diggers. The chain spot is really just, it's the best way to go. And I have a really cool setup that I can give a shout out to a buddy that I knew from a long time ago. And he showed me this with threaded rods. And you get about a 4-foot long threaded rod, and you do nuts and washers, and then you put the ring on it, hammer it down into the ground, and you attach the chain, the swivel on each end, yada yada. I'm going to eventually do a nice setup like that, a video showing the setup. So I'm hoping I can do that one of these days. But I like to have them on the chain spots and have something in the house for them. They have their own room with, just some cages, and be able to do it, transport from indoor to outdoor. And if the weather's too crappy, I don't have my dogs living on chain spots 24/7. I don't want to deal with the the police knock on my door, neighbors complaining, all that crap. And the laws with that stuff has gotten really out of control. So I try to abide by that as best I can. And I'm also trying to, advocate how good chain spots are for the dogs, and they definitely like that setup the best. So
I agree. I've seen and I shared it a few times. If I remember correctly, the measurements that people showed, like if you got a regular 6x10 kennel, a few of those could fit in one 10-foot chain space. Yeah,
definitely.
So
I don't remember the
room.
exact math, but the amount of square footage the dog gets of freedom is so much better on a chain spot.
Absolutely. 100%. So, God forbid you had to start over from scratch. What would be your first move? What would you go for? Who would you go to? What would you be looking for to start over?
I would love to stay within this breed for sure, and I would probably, I would hate to start over because I love the dogs I got right now, but I would probably just go back and do pretty much the same breedings that I did to get, basically, my dog Goose is my absolute favorite, and, that's several generations in of what I've done myself with breedings I've done. I would try to replicate that as best as I can to produce something like her again.
I gotcha. Is there any specific is there any specific kennel you would go to?
For this breed, Not necessarily. I mean, I've reached out and gotten other dogs from other people before, and I mean, maybe I would if I was starting over again, to put it back into my line again. But I definitely find it that the dogs I've produced myself have just been the ones that have worked best for me, and a lot of my buyers have also agreed.
Mm-hmm. Now, what if you say God blesses you with 150 acres of land and you had the space to do whatever you wanted? If you had to pick another breed, what would it be?
Well, I have always loved bull terriers, so I definitely think that's the route I would go. I mean, I'm just itching to get one, and I know my fiance would probably kill me because he already says I have way too many dogs and I'm keeping too many out of too many litters, and we don't have 150 acres, so
Right.
Eventually I really would like to expand a little bit and get another breed, and I would say bull terriers would probably be the other breed I would go for, and I would probably do something in between show line and working line. I would try to do some kind of different line of my own, working with some mini bull terriers and some from some good catch dog stock, and go from there. I follow a few people on Instagram with working bull terriers, and they're absolutely awesome.
So, with that said, would your idea be to kind of scale the size down of the working type then?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would like to go a little smaller, because I mean the size dogs that I'm working with now definitely is my preferred size range, and a standard bull terrier is probably just a smidge bigger than that. So I would definitely try to go for working type bull terriers that are on the smaller side.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. With my band dog stuff, that's the only immediate thing I see up front that I want to change is to shorten them. Just make, no, I don't mean squatty, just smaller all the way around.
Yeah.
So, do you think about bringing in other qualities from other lines or breeding stock, or do you feel like you're in a position where you already have all the puzzle pieces you need for the Old Boston?
Oh, well, I mean, I already have, had gotten another line to contribute into mine as well. So I do think that from that, those 50-50, basically my line to Rutan line is what I did. So I have a bunch that are set up that are 50-50, and then I have still, some that are, straight my line. And like I said, I had thought about maybe doing another outcross down the road with just straight Boston Terrier to bring some size down. But other than that, I think I have the makings of what I want. Hopefully, we get there.
Okay. So, do you use a registry?
I actually don't. I know that when you buy an Old Boston from Nathaniel Rutan, he has his own registry. Mm-hmm. He calls it the NDR. My only issue with that was I said, could I register some of my other dogs that I produced into that line? And he said you can, but the only breedings you can do with those are back to Rutan and so forth. So I really didn't agree with that, because I would like it to be a little more extensive. If I'm going to register my dogs, I want it to be open registry, not just for one set bloodline, so right. I've kind of been on the fence about which registry I want to go to. I know the IOEBA will register them, but there's been a lot of issues I've heard with that, and I've already seen, that they're kind of a little tricky with the standards. I want to get the standard for this breed to be a more set, less vague standard. Mm-hmm. So, honestly, I really think that it would be awesome if the ADBA can recognize them at some point. I would love to get them that recognition with them, and I would go to them. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but that's my hope. I don't know. Maybe you and I can talk about your registry at some point. I've definitely thought about it.
Yeah, I've definitely the thought has crossed my mind because my only criteria is the dog. Honestly, I know this sounds shitty to the fur moms, but if the dog bites, I don't care what he bites. Would he bite a rat? That good enough. You know, as long as the dog is willing to use the teeth God gave him or her, then yes.
Be a dog.
yeah, be a dog. Don't be a couch potato. So yeah, we could definitely talk about that. It'd actually be pretty cool. Let me ask you this: when it comes to pedigrees, what are your thoughts on, you know, the old adage, you know, the pedigree doesn't make the dog, which I agree with, but do you say 50-50, that your importance rides on the pedigree 50% to the dog in front of you 50%, or do you go more by what the dog in front of you is doing?
I mean, that's such a roll of the dice. It's both, you know. It's just really, you never know which way it's going to go. I mean, I'm always been big about the pedigree. I want to know that there's no blank spaces, you know. I like to know that I can go back and know, okay, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-great. I can just keep going and see the names and see what dogs they are and know what's in there. I like to know that. I mean, I'm big into that, and I've been, you know, really putting a lot of work into making the pedigrees for all these old Boston Bulldogs. And even this one kid, he's getting into the breed. He called me a pedigree savant. So, I mean, I'm definitely big into being able to know that, because I don't like seeing unknowns. But, you know, coming from somebody who also dealt with, you know, game-bred pit bulls, you know, the pedigree isn't always everything. I mean, you can get a completely unknown dog, and then that dog could go on and become a grand champion. You never know. There's a lot of stories, you know, like if you ever read up on any of Stratton's books on the pit bull, there's a story about the dog 35. The guy bought him from somebody off the streets for $35. No idea where the dog came from, and the dog is, you know, one of the big names in history, you know, of the breed.
I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I've seen no-name dogs, you know, like similar to that I've gotten off you know, from the neighborhood with no papers, no nothing, and they turn out to be phenomenal. And that's another thing I wanted to do with the registry. I mean, if a guy comes to me and says, you know, my dog is an insane personal protection dog, he's such a great animal, or he you know, champed out in the weight pool or whatever the case may be, it's just like, why not give that dog a start, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
If the dog is that
as long as they go about it the right way, you know, and then if that dog, you know, starts something, then yeah, that's definitely good.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give somebody who firstly wants to get an old Boston Bulldog and secondly wants to breed an old Boston Bulldog?
So, I mean, I talk to pet parents, I guess you could call them, differently than I would somebody who's a breeding or working pet owner. I really try to, you know, level with people as best I can. So the pet owners, you know, I give them little pointers on, you know, training. I let them know everything that I've done with them since they were born, before they left my home, and just let them know, like, okay, the more you wear this dog out, they got a lot of energy. You take them out and play with them as much as you can, because then you don't have to worry about them driving you nuts. You know, that's like the number one thing I tell pet buyers. Just play with them a lot. Just get some of that energy out, you know, and then you'd be good. it's basically just, it's the basics as far as that goes. And I tell them, when you buy a puppy from me, you're stuck with me for the life of that dog. I want updates. I want to, know how things are going. If you have any complaints, any questions, even if it's years down the road, I'm always here. Mm-hmm. I want to know what's going on in that dog's life, from the moment it leaves my home until the moment it's gone. So, I give everybody the heads up on that. Expect to be annoyed by me, because that's that. You're stuck with me. But
right.
Somebody who is looking to breed and start getting into it like that, we take it day by day. We can talk. Like, I have quite a few people, and we sit and chat on Facebook Messenger for hours. Always talk, always be open, and roll some ideas around. Let's always communicate about it, and just take it step by step, and always get some knowledge from people who have got the experience and who have been doing it for a while, and make sure you really take it seriously and don't just try to cut corners and whatnot. Just be safe as long as you're serious about it,
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
It's work. Breeding dogs, don't matter what breed it is, breeding dogs is definitely work, and people, if you do it right, you're not making a whole lot of money.
Right.
So definitely expect that.
Yeah, that was in one of my vlogs. I kind of tried to put that message out there. Like, a lot of the guys that I talked to, some of the OGs in the game, they didn't start to see profit until not much profit anyway, until like the third, fourth generation even. And that was only because their name was now solidified and people knew about them, so they were able to up the prices on their puppies. But other than that, if you're selling the average puppy for $1,500, you got to factor the dog food, the vet care, when I have a litter, I don't use much vet care. I do the 5-way shots and the dewormings and all that stuff. But even that is expensive when you're talking about a whole litter.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, sometimes, depending on the breed, you have to go get, a C-section. Especially, now, me personally, I don't like that. I'd rather a dog be able to breed and deliver naturally. But there is guys out there that they just kind of skip over all the bullshit, which I get it. They just don't like to take risks, so they just go and just pay the $1,500 and get a C-section. It's just like, yeah, but who has $1,500 to just throw away?
Especially for something like that. I just don't understand that. I've never had to take a dog in for a C-section, and I have one female that I'm contemplating on rehoming her just because she does have some complications during labor. Nothing to the point where she would need a C-section, but she's got some other issues too, obviously. That's why I'm contemplating rehoming her, but I don't take that chance. If I see that I'm going to have to give a dog a C-section, and I pay for it the one time, obviously, to make sure everybody's okay, but I'm not going to continue to breed that dog.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And then they don't factor in the life of the dog either. Even if people are looking for a return on investment, it's like that female, you're waiting till her second heat, number one. So think about all the dog food that you bought, the crate you bought, all the way up till she actually gets bred. You're paying a stud fee more than likely. And that's if you only get the female. People that go and get...
On top of that, the dogs that are needing C-sections, they have to do AI breedings on top of that. They can't breed naturally just as well as they can't whelp naturally.
Right. Yeah, that's another factor. So yeah, the people out there that think this is a get-rich-quick scheme, when done right and when done long enough, yes, you can make some money off of it, but a lot of people are not in it for that long haul. When they don't see that first come up, they see it as a failed investment, which it's a labor of love until you get to a certain point, for sure.
Yeah. I'm quite a few years in and quite a few generations in, and I'm still you know, I'm not making that much. I'm really not. Even you said 1,500 as being cheap, which it is when you see what other people are selling puppies for. But the way things are today, I mean, you'd be lucky if you actually sell one or two out of the litter for the price you ask, because everybody's
Right.
coming to you with $400, $500 offers. Oh, I'm struggling. I'm struggling. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, we all are.
Yeah.
In fact, I was just having a conversation with someone talking about, it's strange that even, hell, even 20 years ago, you can get a job, hold down an apartment, make your car payment. It was no issue. Now you got households with, you have to have roommates almost. I mean, people are screwed out here. So I mean, for a lot of people, getting a dog isn't even in the cards. And that's what fucks me up the most is people don't think things through. So I'm gonna get a puppy, and then they run into problems because they actually weren't prepared to get a puppy. It's like, I'm hesitant to even sell a puppy if the person isn't a homeowner. I'm hesitant because it's like, man, what if they move out of that place that they're renting and the next place won't take dogs? What happens to that dog, And
Well, that's another thing that I do when I'm, selling puppies is, I'll always give people a chance. I'm very far from judgmental, but I tell them, I said, listen, if 2 years down the road life changes happen and you can't take the dog anymore, bring the dog back to me. No questions asked. I will always take the dog back. And then either I will keep that dog or I will find it another home another way. So I make sure, like, come to me first. If you get a dog for me and you can't keep it anymore, just come back to me before you do anything else. I don't want to know that my dog disappeared somewhere.
Right. Yeah, that still bothers me. I've lost touch with a lot of buyers over the years, and sometimes they were just straight up assholes about it,
Yeah,
Like,
out of all the puppies I've sold over the years, there's only two that I lost contact with. One was because it was a friend of mine that we had a big falling out. The deal went bad, and they basically tried to screw me out of money, so we ended up having a huge confrontation over it and never speaking again. But I still, occasionally will see the dog getting posted on Facebook, so I know the dog's all right, but I just don't have any contact with that person anymore. And the other one, the girl bought the puppy, and then she just disappeared off the face of the earth. Never heard from her again. I tried reaching out many times, but I don't know if she moved, changed her number, whatever. But that was it. It was only two, and everybody else I've been in contact with still. To this day, friends with a bunch of them on Facebook. I get texts for my birthday. Happy birthday, Jackie. Here's a picture of the dog. It's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, it's so cool. Dogs that I've produced over the years, it's such a nice feeling when I see them grown and
yeah, I could say exactly the same thing, too. I'm like, yeah, I must be doing something right.
Yeah.
Or they come back for another one, they're like, yeah, maybe I'll get another one from you. Let me know when you have another litter. And it's like, oh, that's awesome.
Right. I mean, and I think somebody would definitely always feel better buying from somebody that has such passion and, like, gives that much of a damn. I've picked up some dogs from people who were, now I don't really look at the term backyard breeder the same way as everybody else does, because I've been a quote unquote backyard breeder before, and I love my dogs and take care of them to the best of my ability. So when people say backyard breeder, I think that's really a loose term, but I have bought dogs from people who flat out, you could tell, just didn't give a shit. They're just like, yeah, give me $300 and the puppy's yours. I don't give a shit about keeping in contact with you, and it's just like, well, damn, okay. So while we're on that topic, what is your screening process, and what is the ideal candidate for an old Boston Bulldog for you to sell one?
I mean, like I said, I'm not judgmental. I try to be fair and give everybody a chance. I'm really, really easy to work with, so I try to be as fair as I can and make everybody happy. I I've really never had any issues with buyers. There's been a few times where I have turned people down just because they seemed like they just were kind of sketchy, and that they were looking for a cheap deal so they could maybe flip it, or I wasn't sure what, but I just wasn't getting very good vibes from them, and I've turned people down for stuff like that. But I just really, I mean, as long as the person is, open and talking with me, and like they're talking about, their lifestyle or whatever. I mean, I prefer the dog to be in an active home, but a lot of times, it's the dog is, a family pet. They have kids and whatnot, and they're really just looking for a family pet. So, I mean, granted, I'd prefer working homes, but can't really get every puppy into a working home. So, I don't really. I guess it's not really screening, I guess you could say. It's just, as long as the person's open with me and we can openly communicate, and there's nothing that I feel is being hidden, like as long as we're okay to talk frequently, conversate, let's, so that way I know that this person is going to stay in contact with me.
Now, with that said, is there a process such as, okay, for example, if I'm selling puppies, and somebody wants a specific one, like I've told people in the past, they got disappointed and end up not buying a puppy from me, but I'm like, nah, that's not the one for you, you got kids, small kids, so I'm thinking that one in the back there who's just kind of chilling is the one you need. Do you kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I'll send pictures of what's available to the customers, and they'll say one or two that they like the way they look, and then I'll also tell them, listen, tell me what it is that you're looking for. If you're looking for the one that's a little calmer than the others, or if you're looking for one that's going to be the most outgoing, let me know what else you're looking for, and I can also, help steer you in the right direction, because I'm the one that's seeing the personalities developing in these puppies. So I definitely will try to pair which puppy personality-wise would fit that home best as well. So then we kind of just, work it out that way.
I gotcha. So, when it comes to vaccinations and shit, do you do your own or do you go to the vet?
Yeah, I do my own. I've had to go to the vet a couple times because I've ordered vaccines, and then they had me waiting for them to show up, and, then they say they were out of stock, and I'm like, well, I got a puppy leaving, a couple days later, like, I need to get this now, and I'm waiting for shots that are on back order. So there's been times where I have definitely gone and taken them to my vet and done it, or taken them to Petco or Tractor Supply, whatever, but most of the time I prefer to do it myself, because it definitely is much easier that way, and it's nothing, new to me. I have some veterinary training, I did take some classes and whatnot, so I have no problem doing a lot of stuff myself. I mean, if there's stuff I can't do myself, then I go to my vet, but I try to do everything myself.
And do you, for example, like the 5-way, do you do that at 6 weeks or 8 weeks?
I actually do it at 7, like right in the middle there.
Oh, that's smart. Because I've always heard the back and forth. Some guys do it at 6, some guys do it at 8. Maybe I'll follow your lead on that one.
Yeah, because I figure, they're going to be leaving around 8 weeks. They're fully weaned by 6, so you give it a little bit more time, because I know that if you give them the vaccines a little too soon and they still have immunity from the mother's milk, then the vaccine kind of doesn't quite do its job. So I give it like a week after, maybe a little longer after they've been fully weaned.
So you have them fully weaned by 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, occasionally at 6 weeks, they're definitely eating completely on their own with no issues. I mean, maybe they'll still get a little, chance at the mom once in a while, but for the most part, they're on their own at that point.
So you do mush?
Yeah, what I do is I'll get ground beef or ground turkey, and I will smush it all together, mix a little bit of warm water in there, and sometimes I'll mix a little bit of like canned puppy food and do it like that, spread it out in the puppy feeder, and then they'll start with that, and then I'll gradually start taking the kibble and soaking that in warm water for a little bit, and then sprinkling some of that in with the ground meat or the canned food, whichever, and then gradually just start going more kibble, so that way they can get used to eating that too.
Okay. So, in your mind's eye, what does the future hold? What's the vision?
Man, I'm really hoping to get some consistency within this breed, and get it recognized, get more people to know what it is, get some, registry on board with them. I'm tired of people not knowing what these dogs are, and I want to see my dogs like, what kind of dog is that? Oh, is that a pit bull? Oh, is that a mini boxer? Like, it's all over the place right now. So, I want to be able to say the breed and people know what it is. I want, a good registry to recognize them. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, if I try to, I don't know, let's see. If you're doing a search on any type of dog group, let's say it's Hoobly or Puppy Find or AKC or any of those where there's a list of breeds, Old Boston Bulldog is never listed. Like, when I go to the vet and I tell them Old Boston Bulldog, they have a list of breeds and they just click which one. They don't type it in manually. All the computer systems, everything it's a list and you click one.
Right.
And it's always just find something similar and click it, because it's nothing else. It's never listed. It's never a listed breed. So I'm hoping that starts to change at some point.
Yeah, I brought a band dog into the vet, and when they printed out the papers for me, it said Staffordshire Terrier. I'm just like, well, that's not right. I mean, it actually has no Amstaff anywhere in its blood. Well, I mean, if you go far enough back on her side, I guess one of those could be, but still, it's just like, I think that's important, because if I'm using Pit Bull versus Amstaff as an example, there might be a genetic difference, like for some kind of disease or something like that, in one line that's not in the other. The Boer Bull, the father of my litter, his embark fully checked out, but it said you have to let the vet know that something, I gotta go back and read it again, something about some liver count or something like that is naturally higher for this blood or whatever, and it's nothing wrong with it. You just have to explain it to the vet. And so if they called him a bull mastiff for whatever reason, it would be like, no, that doesn't make sense, because then they would start getting red flags or something,
Yeah, and then that goes back to the health testing too. You know how difficult it was for me to figure out how to do health testing on them, because that's, again, breed specific. So, like, I'll do a pit bull health test and I'll do a Boston Terrier health test. Like, it's always, I'm trying to figure out what's the closest, and I know what's, percentage is high in the breed. So, like, trying to figure it out it's impossible. When you get a recognized breed, it makes things a lot easier that way.
Yeah, definitely.
And when I took them to Petco for shots, I told them what breed they were, and they didn't even ask questions. They acted like they knew what it was, and then they put down American Bull Terrier as the breed. I'm like, what even is that?
What is an American Bull Terrier? That's funny. Now, before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, what can you tell me about MBF reptiles?
Well, that's as you can tell, MBF Bulldogs and MBF Reptiles, the logo and the name are both pretty much the same. I mean, I was breeding dogs long before I was breeding snakes, but not to, the extent that I am now. I was big into breeding snakes. I mean, I'm not quite so much anymore. I had a lot of ball pythons and boas. Some pretty nice genetics, too. I mean, you know, I had some snakes that were worth a couple $1,000s. Yeah, nice rack systems and PVC caging, and it was fun. I just the way the economy's changed lately, and it's been getting a little more difficult to do that, and the market's not so great. So I cut back on that a little bit. Hopefully, I could pick it back up again someday, but I cut back for now and just focus more on the dogs.
Right. I gotcha. What do you still have now?
Some boas and ball pythons still. They're not even at my house anymore. They're actually at my buddy's house. He's another big breeder that definitely contributed to me getting where I was at with that. But I figured, you know, he was fine with me leaving the snakes with him until I figure out what I want to do. So, I mean, ball pythons are a little easier to house because, you know, the rack systems are smaller and more space convenient, but the boas are, I feel, hardier snakes, and they're not as bad, I guess, as saturated as bull pythons. But I mean, they're close though.
Right.
It depends on what kind of, you know, genetics you're working with too. I mean, you know, a lot of people like to stick with the locality stuff, and then you have, you know, your leopard stuff, your IMG stuff, blood, T positive, you know, all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, I don't know much about that. I was just getting my feet wet. Yeah, so, but it was a fascination. I love the process of it, you know what I mean? I love the feeding, I love the cleaning, I love the handling each of them, and, you know, I also had
the attention you get when people find out you own snakes.
Yeah, they leave me alone.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that be like, I would never go to your house, and then you got people that are like, that's so awesome.
Yeah,
I miss my snakes, definitely, though. I definitely enjoyed it. It was getting rough for a bit, and I really wanted to focus more on the dogs for now, but I'll probably bring the snakes back around again soon. Yeah. I still got some nice stuff that's at my buddy's house.
Yeah, keep me posted on that. I'd like to see what you got going on. But I'm definitely gonna get back into boas. A buddy of mine was basically, you know, I was trying to figure out the market of it, and he was like, man, your best bet is, you know, because they live so long, it's like your best bet is just to get what you like and stick to it. He was like, don't go with the fads. And that made sense, because I like, especially in ball pythons, like there was colors I liked, and there was colors that were really popular that I didn't like, you know. I don't know.
With ball pythons, there's so many of them, and there's so many still being, you know, created and or discovered, that it don't matter what you go with on ball pythons. Like, it's going to change no matter what.
Right.
And that's part of when I was talking about getting into the genetics and colors and knowing what dogs will produce what, you know, that's, it goes back to that, because I don't breed dogs for color, you know, color is not important, but I like to see the genetics at play. I'd like to know what's going to come of what. It's just a fascination with the genetics that I've gotten into, and that's goes hand in hand with the snakes, because you gotta learn a lot about genetics when you breed snakes. So that, I guess, my snake thing kind of trickled its way into the dog thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it can be lucrative, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a cool thing to be into. Like, it took up some of my time, but it was something I enjoyed doing. Like, I had my setup in the living room, and, you know, every day at a certain point of the day, just going and checking the water bowls, the moisture, you know, is this one going to eat today, or is he going to wait 3 weeks? You know, like,
oh, that would drive me nuts. Like, the snake just randomly decides don't want to eat no more.
Yeah, I ended up with a small rat colony because of that. I actually kind of got creative and put a couple hamster cages, like bent the metal and kind of stuck them together and twisted the metal so that it was a very big cage. And there was one snake didn't eat a specific rat pup, so the rat pup just grew. And then there was 2 females that didn't get eaten, so they just grew. And then the next thing you know, there was 2 litters of rats in the cage just randomly one day. Had no clue that was going to happen. It was just like, oh well, I got rats to feed the small snakes now.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing happened to me. I tried to keep it going for a while so I didn't have to pay so much money in feeding them, just breed my own. But yeah, the rats can be a lot of work too.
Oh, pain in the ass.
They're not that bad, but the smell, it's like you just cannot get rid of that smell.
Yeah. Well, that too, there was, eventually we moved the whole rat setup to the porch, and the plastic at the bottom, I don't know how, but one of them chewed its way out, so the 2 females escaped, and they just went wherever. But it was funny, the male grew to be huge and would never run away. In fact, he ended up being a very social pet.
Yeah, they can be, definitely.
Every time we went out there, he would crawl out of the little hole, go up onto the ledge of the porch, and wait for us to come touch him and pet him and stuff. I'm just like, this... I almost was like, oh, I'm glad he didn't get eaten. So, where can people find you?
Well, I mean, there's my personal page on Facebook, Jacki Miller. I post plenty of stuff there, but as far as MBF Bulldogges, I do have a business page for MBF Bulldogges on Facebook, and I have an Instagram as well.